what we're going to do today. The first bit's going to be boring. And I am sorry. It'll be relatively quick. So I can do it relatively quickly. Well, if the screen cooperates. There we go. And then after that, we're going to get some work done. And then after that, if everything goes well, there's no reason to think it won't, you guys will get to leave a little early. Be nice. Okay.
No offense.
It's all good. I get it. I get it. All right. So to begin with, I think I've actually closed everything, and that's my fault. All right. So we're going to talk about works cited pages. Like I said, boring, but I can do it kind of quickly. To begin with, a works cited page, that's not what I wanted. You want to set it up just like you do everything in your paper, right? Times New Roman 12, it needs to be double spaced. You need to turn off extra space between paragraphs, all that noise. Then, that's how we start. Now, a quick note. You will have some teachers tell you that if it's one work, they want it to be work cited, not works cited. I'm 99% sure that's incorrect, but do whatever your teacher tells you, right? They're grading your stuff. If they want it singular, roll with that, okay? In this case, it doesn't matter because you're hopefully using multiple sources, so works cited, works. And then after that, we just need our citations. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. To begin with, and some of you actually already figured this out, say you want to cite Jarvis. Well, you need to go find that article on a database. Galileo, if you just type in Jarvis Vietnamization, we have it right here. And we have all the information. We have the author, we have the journal it appears in, the date, the page numbers are right here. That's volume and series, and we're not going to get too in the weeds on that. But basically, if we're going to make our citation, this is what we need. Now, the even better news, though, especially on Galileo, not every database has this. You go right over here to the right, and you click Cite. You get all of the different formats you could want in terms of citation. So for us, our works cited page, what do you imagine we could do with that? We copy and paste that bitch, exactly. Now, there are going to be some issues. Number one, the spacing looks mostly fine. I think it's the wrong font. It is the wrong font. And also, some of you have better eyes than others. You can see there's a gray background here. That tells your professor that you've copy and pasted that bitch. What's up? You can. Well, this is why I make that point, because not all of you will. You need to fix it. And it's not hard to do, and yet. But also, in case you think it's not a big deal, I want to stress this point first. Some teachers, they're older than me. They will likely die soon, but they take great offense to this sort of thing. They don't want you copying and pasting things. They don't want you using bib generators, which we're going to talk about in a second. They want you coming up with this on your own. And you can. I used to have to do it. I know. This is 2020. This is the world we're in. I don't mind any of this, but I do want you to fix it. So the ways to do that. I'm not, honestly, as adept with Word as I used to be, because, again, it's 2020. We all use Google Docs. I think, yeah, keep text only. We'll get rid of that stuff. It's made it Times New Roman 12 now, so it looks pretty good. What you need to do after this, once you have all your works cited entries, okay, not just one. Oh, and also a quick note, in case you don't know, works cited needs to be alphabetized. We know this, yes? Okay, and you do it usually by author's last name, but honestly you do it by whatever appears first. So 99% of the time that's going to be author's last name. The only time that won't be the case is when you don't have the author's name for some reason, which does occasionally happen. But whatever the first word is in your entry, that's what you use to alphabetize. Anyway, we're citing Jarvis. We need to do what's called a hanging indent. There's a couple ways to do this, and it varies depending on your word processor, but all of them, to my knowledge, have this option. It's going to be somewhere in the paragraph options, and you can Google this, depending on whatever processor you're using. But in Word, it's right here. You go to Special Indentation, and you want Hanging. It's going to look like that. So every entry in your Works Cited page is it should look like the reverse of a paragraph, okay? The first line is not indented, and then every line in each entry after that is indented. Make sense? Okay. The other thing I want to show you, I'll go ahead and exit out of this. I mentioned bib generators. Easy bib. I'm sure there's other bib generators. You guys are familiar with those. I don't know, but they all kind of work the same. We're going to manually do this. Also, accidentally, what the hell? Whoa, this is not cooperating at all. Dad, Easy Bib took over my computer. Let's try this one more time. Okay. So, if you're using a database especially that doesn't have the citation function, not all of them do, what you can do then is you go to EasyBib, as I've done, and you basically, and I did this in my last class, you find all the information, like I mentioned, here, and you put it into this, okay? So, the journal title, that's this guy, this long thing, which I don't actually, oh I did, look at that, okay? You may not recognize a lot of the other stuff, okay? Very, very, very few professors are going to ding you for that necessarily. I do think you should try, okay? And the easiest way to tell you, if it's in a journal, which this is, I mean, Literature in the Arts and International Journal of the Humanities, right? Like this is a published journal of scholarly articles. They're almost always in volumes. They're almost always in issues. This particular one is volume 15, issues 1 through 2. That's what that means. So, we don't have a series, at least it's not listed. We're not going to have that specific information as far as when it was published, but we do get the year, which is 2003, okay? And we do, and you almost always will, get the pages. This one happens to be 95 through 117, okay? Put all that in. It doesn't take long. And then complete citation, we may have to, yeah, we're going to have to watch an ad. Man. This is unfortunately, this was not a thing when I was a student. There were no ads. What a wondrous time it must have been. Can I watch it, please? All right, hang on. Don't you? Okay. Great. You guys know how these ads always work on you, right? Like you're sure to use whatever they want you to do now? Yeah. All right. Anyway, because I did this in the class before, so we have the citation twice now. I'm just going to copy it. It looks pretty good, to be honest with you. And we could paste it back into our document. Of course, we already have the citation, so we don't need to. the last thing I want to tell you about, even if you use a bib generator, okay, they're not always 100% correct, not least of which because you guys don't always 100% of the time put things in correctly. So, you also want to double check your citations here. I just Googled owl, like the bird, Purdue. This is the online writing lab at Purdue, and they have actually really great sort of formatting guides for MLA and APA. Of course, we're not interested in APA because it is a dumpster fire of a format. But, you know, if you go in here, there's a lot of actually really helpful stuff, very specific. You can actually kind of drown in all that information. You don't necessarily need all that information. But if you scroll to the end, they have sample papers, which can be helpful. They tell you what things are supposed to look like and also why in some cases. But then also, let me find the citation here. We don't want, oh, works cited, there we go. So again, they're going to break down the basic format of a works cited page. They'll tell you like different kinds of citations. In our case, we found a periodical. It's going to tell you what it looks like, right? Depending on where you found it, stuff like that. And they'll give you examples which you can use to sort of hold up against your own. Does this look right? Does it not? Am I missing something? Blah, blah, blah. It's not the most fun you're ever going to have. But all of this collectively takes about 10 minutes. And it's 10 minutes to make sure your format is right, make sure everything looks good, and you're done with it, right? This is my approach, even when I do citations. I do all this, okay? Questions about any of that?
Can you go back to
Yeah.
Word and you took the space out from in between the paragraphs? How do you do that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So real quick. You notice it does it here. I hit enter and by default it gave me that space, right? It does that because by default Word is in, 1.15, but basically Word is in single space by default. But when you double space, then it double spaces that extra space, like it looks ridiculous. The way to fix it, and there's probably a couple ways, but you go into your paragraph settings and right here, don't add space between paragraphs because by default it will, which is silly. I could be wrong. I don't think Google Docs adds space by default. I don't remember offhand. I will say, no matter what processor you're using, you can always, like, Google is your friend for real. Word, Excel, Google Docs, like, they'll walk you through it as well if you forget. But it's always going to be in paragraph options somewhere, and it's always going to be something like that, like turn a thing off or whatever. Any other questions? Okay. All right, what we're going to do now. I promised that would be quick. I promised it wouldn't be fun. I'm sorry about that. What I had originally planned, I can turn this off. I'm about to let you go. I just have a couple more things I have to say at you, okay? Number one, I just want to open the floor. If anybody still, like all of a sudden, just realized they have any questions about this paper or anything about how it works or what we're doing or anything at all. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I went to my feedback studio on Turnitin.com.
Okay.
And I read the thing, and most of my paper comes up as plagiarized, but when I click on the thing, it says a student paper submitted to the University of West Georgia. Will I get points taken off for that because the stuff that's highlighted as plagiarized is like
Quotations?
yes.
No, you're
So
fine.
we're obviously gonna all have.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
What's the number? Do you know, like, the percentage?
It says 42.
That's kind of high. I would hazard that your quotation, you may have like a few too many quotations or some of them might be kind of long. If that's the case, it's not plagiarism, but that's another issue, which is, you know, I still want to hear mostly from you. So you want to look for places where you can like trim some of those quotations. and or maybe you cut a couple of them, like if you're not using them that much, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It could be that. But yeah, a lot of us are going to use similar quotations. That's going to happen. But if a number is that high, that tells me you probably have a few too many quotations.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions? That was good. Okay. So you all feel really strong. Feel good? You look like you're about to pass out, but other than that, I do appreciate you not. Honestly, you look like you were struggling. I wasn't going to call you out till we were done. I'm glad you made it.
I want to sleep like 4:30.
Jesus Christ. All right. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. So what we got going on next week? You already asked this, but I want to say it to the class. You need to have Die Hard watched before class. Has anyone ever seen this movie? Okay. It's an 80s action movie. And if you've ever seen any of those, you kind of know what to expect for this. It's Bruce Willis when he had hair. So it's like back in the day. The one warning I want to give you, I guess there's two. I didn't warn any of my other classes about this. It is rated R, I'm pretty sure. So they say like bad words and stuff. And they also kill a lot of people. Like, I'm pretty sure it's rated R for language, but like they kill all sorts of people. So there's that. So like some people watch this stuff with their parents. I'm not saying you can't do that. But if anything that could be rated R might make you uncomfortable in front of your parents, then don't. Oh, the other note about that. There's like 5 Die Hards at this point, I think. That's not hyperbole. We're watching the very first one. Okay? All the other ones have a subtitle. I'm not kidding. I think Die Hard 2 is called Die Hard 2 Die Harder. I don't think I'm making that up. It's something like that. It's ridiculous. We're just looking, the first one is just called Die Hard. Okay? You can find it streaming some places. Last I checked, it was on Hulu, for instance, but it could be other places as well. I know that stuff kind of changes. You can also, like I know students in the past have just rented the thing, like on Amazon or something, for like $2. That's an option. What I'm telling you is you do not have to buy it. You can, if that works for you, and that makes it that you can, but you don't have to. You just have to have it watched by next week, okay? Now, of course, I say all that. I know the first thing you really got to do is finish paper 2. That's what's important. Do that, but figure out the Die Hard thing as well.